I've been listening to some of his post-game press conferences, media availability lately, and it's not like these go on forever. They're only, 4, 5, 6 minutes sometimes, but he's more or less asked about how do you feel and how you dealing with minutes restrictions and how much do you love Tatum and Brown and why isn't your shot falling, because he had the 6 for 18 in 19 minutes the other night, and Brad sort of defended that and saying you're kind of out of energy when you're tailing Steph Curry the entire game and you're not necessarily going to shoot efficiently. But to what you're saying about not going to the rim as much as maybe he has historically, do you think with the knee he's afraid of getting banged around? I mean, I guess as you bring it up, I'm sort of surprised he hasn't been asked about that.
Yeah, and I think some of it might be mental and just being afraid to do it. I think some of it is physical too, that he just can't do it as much as he used to with the knee problem that he's had. They haven't really explained, and this is something that I would like to get kind of the full dossier on this whole thing. What's going on with the knee? What? Because this is something that, think about it. It was a year ago that this started. It was in January of 2020 that the knee thing started with Kemba. And for something to just kind of last that long and then get the stem cell, well, what's wrong? Like, what is the actual injury? I don't think we've got a clear answer on that. And so we don't know. So, you've got this thing with Kemba Walker where, we're constantly wondering about what's going on. Is he fully healthy or all that? But we don't know what he's actually healthy against, what he's trying to get healthy against. Like, what is it that needs to heal? What needs to feel better? This is an injury that he's had for a while, even going back to his days in Charlotte. Is this just some kind of chronic thing? Is there a fix to it? And if it is a chronic thing, then are the Celtics on the hook for the next couple of years here for $35 million a year for a guy who's going to be a 36% shooter?
Who's the right person to ask that question to? I mean, Ainge is not gonna answer it any more honestly than he wants or is able to, and he's not going to obviously invade anyone's medical privacy. Brad would, and this is not even a criticism of Danny, of Brad, of Kemba, of anybody, but like, you ask these, you're not going to get full transparency on this,
right,
from Danny, certainly from Brad. I feel like Kemba would be probably the most forthcoming if you were to try and ask that question to him. I don't know how much you're going to get out of him either.
Yeah, Kemba's not the chattiest guy. So
Right.
I think that's not going to be something he's going to want to talk about. And yeah, I mean, so we're kind of left with this vague knee injury, but we don't really know exactly what it is. There's nobody we can compare it to and say, hey, this guy had something similar. Is it an ACL thing where there's maybe some kind of minor tear or something where it's stretched too far? All these things can happen to a knee and not require a major surgery. I think teams tend to be very honest and upfront when there is a major surgery. Because that hasn't happened with Kemba, we just don't have the answers to that.
Yeah, it is frustrating. And with Kemba, like I said it before, if it's just Jason and Jalen and a hodgepodge of other parts, and like, I'm not trying to say that Tristan Thompson has been better lately, Daniel Tice has been better lately, and Smart does smart stuff, whatever. But they're not going to compete for an Eastern Conference Finals appearance or a Finals appearance or an NBA title for that matter, if you want to go that far, without him being a huge part of their offense, right? They're not going anywhere. As much fun as watching the Jays are, he is that quote unquote big X factor that they need to get them over the top. Because you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, right? We talk about this all the time. There's a dynamic duo in place almost everywhere. Brooklyn's got 3 guys that are all stars and all NBA guys. You look at Milwaukee and what they've done between Holiday and Middleton and Giannis. Like, those are 3 pretty awesome players. You look at Tobias Harris's resurgence in Philadelphia. They got 3 pretty prominent. Well, I'd say 2.5 pretty prominent scores. Boston seems to be lacking in that department. Kemba gives you at least the ammo you would need to keep up with those teams on an offensive, in an offensive way, and especially when you think about their defense. Like, their defense has not been great at all. We've talked about this pretty much every week, I feel like, on the show, Adam. Their defense has been so bad. They need all the offense they can get just to stay in games if their defense, John, is going to be this bad. So, as look, as I don't freak out about last night's loss because of the way that they've been depleted in that department. I will hop on this bandwagon with you and say, like, we need to figure out what the hell's going on with Kemba Walker, because I mean, if he's not going to play in back-to-backs, I totally understand that they're trying to, you know, manage this thing correctly. But to your point, what are they managing exactly? You know, what is the big problem here, to the point where, like, okay, we can't allow Kemba to play in back-to-backs, you know, why exactly? Why can't he play, you know, 20? Why couldn't he play, like, only it would be 15 minutes of Kemba Walker last night, it would have been a different outcome. They didn't need a lot of Kemba Walker last night. Just need a little bit of it, just give him a little bit of a spark. Because again, when your point guard rotation is Jeff Teague, Trey Waters, Carson Edwards, and Jason Tatum mostly, you're not gonna win a lot of basketball games. So
right. On top of that too, if he can't play, you know, back-to-backs, why can't he play 35 minutes in a given game?
Right, exactly. So to Sean's point, even though I'm a little more optimistic about the game last night, we still have to get back to this. Kemba Walker, you know, if he's not going to be 100%, he's not going to. And then what is really going on here? And if it's not going to be something that's going to be solvable, or it's something that they're not going to describe it, and they're not going to really tell you, do they have to, you know, we've talked about this. I'm sure people have talked about this as well. But are they going to have to maybe move on from Kemba here, or do they have to get something else on the team to, you know, to compensate for a gimpy, so to speak, Kemba Walker's? Because, you know, if he's not going to be part of the offense like they need him to be, well, they need more offense now, because their defense has been absolute garbage, Sean.
And that might be part of the reason why they don't want to be very explicit about what's going on with Kemba, is because if you have to make a trade down the line, you know, in the end, everybody's going to wind up knowing what's wrong with him. Like if you want to trade him, then the other team is going to ask these questions. But certainly, you don't want to put it out there as much as you need to. You want to be as quiet about it as possible, because if it does wind up being a trade situation, I can't imagine. I've talked about this with other people around the league that right now you just couldn't get rid of Kemba Walker, even if you were just trading him into a trade exception. Like, nobody wants the guy because of the lack of performance, because of the uncertainty about the knee and the contract. And that's where the Celtics are right now with him. So you're right. They need him to get back to what he was, or something close to it, or else, you know, they're sort of stuck here.